season 10 of the Overflow Podcast.
Double digits.
Sorry, I pointed to that. Double digits. Can you believe we made it?
Can you believe we made it? 10 seasons?
I cannot believe we made it 10 seasons. And we've added an element. Hey, YouTube.
Whoa.
We're here.
I did my hair today.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I'm going to have to be maybe a little more conscious of not showing up looking like a ragamuffin, but maybe not. YouTube can get the real me. It's really cool. I was just walking through the hall, dropping Nora off for school, and got stopped by one of the teachers who was like, me and my husband were just saying yesterday, we need can you sorry, don't want to rush you, but can you please do a podcast? And I was like, girl, you don't even know. I'm on my way up to do it right now.
That's awesome.
So that made me excited.
Say this. I love, honestly, this is fun. This is a joy for us to do.
Genuine joy.
The break was nice for, you know what I mean, too, at the same time. Can we say that?
Yes,
no,
we can say that.
We need to say that.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why is because people would love us to be on every week. And I've met people that are like, man, I just needed the podcast. And I'm like, personally, we need a break.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sometimes you got to freshen up, come
back.
Yeah,
I need a break from you guys.
No.
I was kidding.
I know, it was nice. I'm glad to see you guys. I haven't seen you in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That is how it goes.
Yeah.
That unless we're doing podcasts, it is a lot of in passing stuff that we see. But it is always good to be back and just to I like when we get to come back and share stories of what God has been doing over the last few weeks. And it is funny because even though the break is nice, I'll find myself on a Sunday morning. I'm like, oh, I wish we could talk about that on the podcast this week. Having those conversations or just what the Lord is doing. So so glad to be back. Season 10. Let's go. Today is Alex's topic before we dive into it, but I'm so excited for this because our little pre-podcast conversation, I think you're right that we're going to be talking about zeal. And when you started talking about the word zeal, however long ago, a few weeks or months, and I started to look into it, it felt like it finally put a word to what we're already what we've already experienced, I think, in our personal relationships with Jesus, but what we see God doing in our church.
I was just about to say that.
It's like it has put the word. I love when something has already been in motion and it's not like just saying, this is what could be this is what could happen for our church. It's like God has already been doing it, but then he highlights in his word what this actually is that we see him doing in the hearts of people. So we're talking about zeal today. Yes. So we'll get there in a second.
Do you have the definition, I guess this is Webster. It's Google's definition. You're not going to say that later, are you?
I do have. I'd be curious because I wrote down a definition from two different sources, but it wasn't through Webster.
Okay. I'll wait. But I was just saying, it goes along with what you're saying.
Yes.
Because, no, I can't wait. I'm sorry. But this one says.
Just say it.
That it's zeal is great energy or enthusiasm in pursuit of a cause or an objective.
Yes.
And the pursuit word is what, is that?
Yeah.
The pursuit word is so good because that's what I think our church is in. We're pursuing Christ.
Yes.
Yes.
And some people might not even kind of know how to do that, but through the Holy Spirit, they're still doing it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And sometimes they're just doing it because they're present, they're here, and they're being touched. And I think that's what's cool.
Pursuit can look like something that feels natural or it can be like you decided to get in the word today where normally you wouldn't have. You don't even realize that's God drawing you in, and that is a pursuit of something. It doesn't have to be
so extravagant.
When you first started talking about it, and I looked up this definition, what stuck out to me was great energy or enthusiasm, and that is to me what put the word to what we've experienced, on a Sunday morning. That it's not just hype; we're actually experiencing zeal for the Lord, which includes energy and enthusiasm. So it's when we say rowdy, what we're really saying, at least from my perspective, is we're saying people are zealous for the Lord.
Yes.
And we
need to change that.
Nice. Yeah.
I say rowdy a lot.
First of all, I like the word rowdy because it has this grit to it. People are rowdy this morning.
But you're right. It's zeal. It's biblical. It's a biblical zeal.
Yes.
And so,
not just hype. That's what I love about it.
Yes. So can I jump into stories? Because all this is already reminding me.
Please.
And it really hit me hard this past Sunday in second service is watching our young adults, but also we have a group of incredible high school and middle schoolers at this church, but that come to second service. And I have to give them a shout out. I don't even know if they listen to this, but we're gonna act like they do.
So. Maybe their parents do.
Yeah, and tell them.
Yeah.
I won't give names. We'll put the names in the show notes.
Yeah. Back to show notes.
But they have been so consistent at our church, and I don't think what we're speaking on about zeal and enthusiasm. I think they add to that. I think they encourage that, and at least they do for me. And so this past Sunday, I was just taken back again, as I usually am when I just see young people saying, I don't care who's seeing me. I mean, we have middle school and high school girls and boys on their knees at the front of the church in front of each service we have. I just looked up. We had 462 people in one service and second service. So you have 8 to 10 middle school and high schoolers in front of 400 adults. And they could care less. They're at the feet of Christ.
Yes.
And what happened was, and I was just talking to Carla about this. I was like, man, you got to come to second service. It's just different because of them.
Yeah.
And we had these other 2 ladies this past Sunday just come forward, and it was just so heartwarming to see them on their knees. Yes, it was an eruption of they're at the feet.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do when we worship.
And
at the feet of
what's
Christ.
crazy? It's an eruption, not in a lyric about, about me or whatever.
Yeah.
I was about to say the song from, like you say, from Lauren Daigle, but like,
yeah.
And that's not a hit on that song. I'm just saying in the context of like, all right, you say I'm enough, and like they're, for some reason, like, I need to like,
you're filling me up.
I need to feel for some reason be lifted up, but these are songs in that particular moment where it's just like, Lord, I need you,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus,
you're my righteousness, my hope and stay. Like, it's singing about who Jesus is,
and to sing that with such zeal.
Yes,
that's when you're like, okay, this is an eruption. This is high praise.
Yeah,
we had one of these ladies. I know y'all know who I'm talking about, but I didn't, because I'm at the front. I don't see. So someone in our staff, because we were celebrating this yesterday. By the way, we celebrate your victories too.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
But they said she came from the back of the auditorium.
Yeah.
So passing all of these people and just on her knees, arms raised, and then another person came because they saw this person, and just see how you're doing something you feel led to do, and the Holy Spirit grabs someone else and says, "You do that too." And then, I mean, I'm just getting overwhelmed. But another note that people don't realize about this too is, going back to y'all. Y'all came into Sunday not knowing what you were going to do for that part of the worship set.
Cass, you said, "What are you doing? What are you doing for the last song?" And Cassie said, "It's a surprise to everyone, even us."
Yes, and so I say that to say this is not typical. Alex, you have a purpose in the songs that you usually schedule, but it's just interesting that the day that you didn't have something for that one set, Sally was led to sing just, "Lord, I need you." And look what it did. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the Holy
we
Spirit.
could do a whole podcast on that, because even the journey the Lord took me on to get to "Lord, I need you" was such a funny little thing. Like, it's so interesting. But I'll speak maybe to this for Alex too. This is just, like, again, little insights, but I think you're doing this intentionally. And I heard you say something about a conference where, not like in a bad light or like crashing on anybody. It was nothing like that, but it was just like, you can tell a difference when you come in, you sing the songs that are on the set list, but you're not like, if God is present and alive and here in this room and does new things all the time and every day, what does he want to do in this room right now? And is it what you put on Planning Center 3 months ago?
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, to be able to have the freedom for a worship leader, for our band to be like, what is God speaking into this room right now for the person that he woke up and brought here today and needs them to leave with something? What is that? And so Alex, I've noticed on like upcoming planning centers and things like that, there's some space there that I feel like, first of all, you're growing us and teaching us to be like, we have to be dependent on the Holy Spirit. I have to be, one of the phrases that I keep thinking a lot. I heard it last year on like a reel, and it was, you can't, oh gosh, of course I remember the second part, but the first part is something like,
you can't out hustle the hustler.
That is that a famous theologian?
Maybe.
Which one?
T-Pain.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No, but it's something like, you can't want to basically flow with hell all through the week and then want to flow with heaven on Sunday.
Ooh.
And that means, that was a little bit better than what you said.
That goes into what we just talked about.
And what he's talking about is like the things that we're taking in all week long. Is it the media that we're taking in, the shows that we're watching, the things that we think are okay? And then we want to walk into a room on a Sunday and flow with heaven. And it's like, there is an importance to being set apart.
Wow.
Everything can and should be sacred in our lives.
I want to add something before you lose that thought.
Yeah.
And Greg and I last week met with a friend, and he's just really excellent when it comes to video production stuff. And he said this thing, and it's like almost word for word for that, but he was quoting the scripture with David that talks about pure in heart, skillful in hand.
Oh, wow.
But he says the Bible is always intentional, and he's like, there's a reason why it's pure in heart first, and then skillful in hands, because everything that's in your heart will flow out of your hands.
Wow,
yeah.
You know, and so you say your hell quote again.
Yeah, you can't flow with heaven all week and then want to flow with hell all week and want to flow with heaven on Sunday.
Yeah, like it's that same thing. You know, it's like, what are you doing that's like just overtaking your heart?
Yeah.
You know, what is the gift that you're stewarding in your heart?
Yeah.
And how are you going to let it come out of your hands?
And that's why I loved Sunday so much. I felt like even that's what you were speaking to in that is sitting in his presence, learning to hear his voice, being okay with not rushing in with your agenda, your prayer requests, your plans. We're told we can bring all of our petitions to him. We should do that. Yes. But that's where we talked about this a lot in season 9, that this is a relationship. We are talking with God, which means this is a conversation. We also need to sit and listen, and we have to be okay with some of that silence and just allowing him to speak to us.
So I had a feeling you were going to bring that up because we just briefly talked about it yesterday. And I thought about this. Like, think about how many times the Bible says the word be still. I mean, what's the famous verse from Psalm that we all know?
Yeah.
Like, be still, know that I'm God.
Yeah.
The Israelites, Moses says, just be still, he will fight for you.
Yes.
The song we sang, Defender, it
Yeah.
literally says, and all I had to do was be still.
Yeah.
So if the Bible continues to stay, be still, be still, be still, be still, then why do we think that that's a suggestion and not a command?
Yeah.
And we think as soon as I pray or come into the presence of the Lord, I have to do something.
Yeah.
No, you just need to stop for a second.
Which is so funny because I mean, we talked about this. We had the episode in season 9 about like how to pray in the Spirit.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, like I brought all this content or whatever, but you taught on it. And then it was almost like yesterday in my quiet time, I had to be like, oh yeah, like I don't think I've been good at just being still. I'm coming with a lot of words, you know, which is okay. I think he welcomes that.
Absolutely.
It's not a shaming thing, but I really had to get back to a place even yesterday morning, just being like, I need to sit for a minute.
Yeah. And so with that, because I struggled with Sundays just because I knew the direction and I didn't want it to come across as shameful or like we're doing something wrong with prayer, but also doing something wrong when we got to the end.
Yeah.
In part of Hebrews 5. We're in Hebrews now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
The point of the whole praying in the Spirit was to say that was the first time that the writer brought in sacrifices of praise. And so it didn't take away the sacrifices of sins, but he added to it. And so we add to our prayer gratefulness and thankfulness and praise, but also we have requests. Like it's a combination, but sometimes we confuse that with God. I need. And he's just like, what I need you to do is be thankful for what you already have.
Yeah.
And when you have a heart of gratitude, the I needs go away.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, you're right, Lord. Look what you've already given me in salvation.
Yeah.
But what's funny is when I was writing that too, I went back to our podcast and I was like, thank the Lord that we did cover this because it helped me be able to try to explain it in a simpler way.
Yes.
And I love that verse that Paul wrote. It's you pray with your spirit, but also with my mind.
Yes.
And it just hit me with the Holy Spirit within your heart wants to partner with, I say fleshly mind, but I don't mean that in like a sinful way. Like,
we told that the renewing of your mind, it has to be renewed,
and it wants to partner. So it gives you the things to say in your heart, but it tries to connect them in your mind so that you can now live them out.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is a beautiful relationship, the connection, the partnering together of God and man.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Through prayer.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. I also thought I know I've shared this with you guys already, but yesterday thinking because you took that time to take that verse, but really apply it to, we got to make a commitment to be in the Word together. Like it is everything to us. It is like it is the bread for us to really feast on. Like we need this daily bread.
Are you talking about the last part?
The last part, the commitment, but the way that you made it so practical for people to just get in the Word, spend time with God every day. You made it so simple and practical to understand that I just had this like little thought of, compared to previous days, yesterday, today, this week, if you had a map that just like lit up with Lake Wiley, like
that was a cool
all
visual.
the little people, all the people who were in the Word compared to maybe the week before, because you took away this like stigma or just the awkwardness. You were just able to, the way that you said it, I think it just for really for everybody, but I think sometimes it can be men, like the way that you spoke to men about that too, like we got to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like it probably took away just some of that awkwardness and just gave them the ability to be like, I'm just going to do it. And so I just wondered yesterday, like how many people are in the Word who haven't been in a long time, who dusted off their Bible yesterday because of some of the things that you said and the way that you said them on Sunday. So that was just I thought that was a really special time. And I will say this too, because I knew you were speaking to me. Like I'm sure you were speaking to lots of people in the room, but I knew that you were speaking to me. And this is almost like my confession. Like I stood there being like, raise your hand, but my hand never went up. And I don't know why, but in my heart, I was making that commitment, but there was still, I should have just taken the next step to raise my hand. But I think there was still a pride in me that was like, I don't have to raise my hand. Like, I know I'm making this commitment. So I wonder if there was anybody, hey, listen, if that was you in the room too, and you're like, I know I need to make this commitment, but I'm too prideful to raise my hand. Like, there's grace for us, but really stick with the commitment. Do it.
Also, please know my heart when I say something like that.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I didn't say that. You're referring to, there's some people in the room that need to raise their hand, but they're not.
Well, just in general, when you're asking people to raise their hand, because I was in both services when you said that, and I didn't raise my hand either time.
I didn't say that first service.
But you had people raise their hands.
Yeah, I did.
Service. So like I didn't. Yeah, so not even just this a specific comment, but it was me.
I did. Here's the. I don't know what this is, if this attacks the enemy, but I went to Pastor Dusty afterwards and I was like, man, I feel like I shouldn't have said that just because I don't want someone to have the wrong idea of why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Like I'm serious about this. I take that platform seriously to not have my own opinions broadcast.
Yeah.
So in the moment, of course, because I'm human, sometimes I might say stuff that I'm on my soapbox with, but that time I really did feel like, hey guys, you need to be pushed. And all I'm asking you to do, this has nothing to do with me. You're making a commitment to the Lord to get serious about your faith. Yep. And there are people who come every single week and you refuse to do this. And I just want to know the reason why.
Yeah.
And so I was not trying to shame. I'm not trying to be rude. I wasn't trying to be this macho man. I was just like, someone needs to be pushed sometimes.
Well, and here's what gives you credibility in that is because I swear I'm not just trying to hype you up right now. This is genuine. You go first in that. You are always quick to say, this is me too. Yep. And you mean it genuinely. And you share the places where God is growing you and working on you too. That's where you gain the credibility that even if you say some of you should be raising your hand, you're like, me too. Like I should be raising my hand. So I just want to encourage you with that.
I'll add to that too, because it's in those moments where, as a leader, you feel perhaps that conviction. However, as a leader, you also want to unlock it for the people that you're doing life with and you're doing ministry with. And so in many ways, when a people is stuck, you end up wondering, is its leaders stuck as well? And so you going into a part of the scriptures like Hebrew that's very confrontational and convicting in many ways, you're preaching to yourself first. Like you've always said, you don't ever want to give your own opinions. You always want to preach to yourself and lead by example. And so what you're doing spiritually for the people of Lake Wiley is you're unlocking something that you're like, it can't just be me that's stuck. I'm going to unlock this for us. Follow me. And that's the transparency. That's the honesty that shows incredible like ministries and organizations is its leaders go first.
Yeah.
It is the Lord is a Lord of order. And like through the Bible, you always see its leaders, they go first.
Yeah.
And when they don't go first, problems occur.
Yeah.
David was supposed to be out with his people. And then a laundry list of sins occurred because he wasn't where he was supposed to be. And so you're coming into a place where you're like, I realize my sinfulness. I realize how easy it is to just scroll. On the phone. Like you said that last week or 2 weeks ago. And we call it rest, but then you're like, this isn't real rest. And so you're unlocking things for, I mean, honestly, the call that the Lord has given you, you know, the order, which is, hey, I've called you to this city, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate you guys. I wasn't trying to get into a
but it's
No,
people need to
yeah.
hear that kind of stuff, honestly, like, because if the Bible, like, if the Lord allowed His word to be confrontational,
Yeah.
then it means that He wants
Ooh.
people in seasons to be confrontational,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
you know. And I think we've had enough like easy talk sermons for way too many years, and
Yeah.
perhaps the Holy Spirit maybe influenced that in some capacity in certain seasons of history. However, he's like, that was only for that specific
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
He says,
I'm with you.
overall, the big picture is you need to die to yourself, and
Yeah.
death is not comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, we all get in weird places when somebody dies. Like,
Yeah. No,
and
you're speaking what I was thinking with that same passage.
Wow.
You know, in different words. And I
Yeah.
love how the Holy Spirit does that. You know, he has your words and he has mine. But man,
yeah,
it's and I'm saying, like, what you just said is, you know, the word has parts where it's very confrontational for our own good, and it is such a random place to put that passage. You know, and the one I'm talking about is the whole you should be teachers, but your children.
Yes.
But it honestly it doesn't flow with the theme of Hebrews. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm tired. Like, good Lord, people. You know, it's almost like I'm getting frustrated here. You're not getting what I'm saying.
Yep.
And but it's specific. I don't know why the Holy Spirit said, I want you to put it in chapter 5.
Yeah.
But it's a purpose to be confrontational in that moment for these believing Jews, but also for us. It's like, guys, we've taught Revelation now, we've taught Hebrews now, and for some, you're still stuck in the same place. Whose fault is that? You know, is it the Lord's? Is it the pastor's? Or is it the person who won't do action to grow?
Yeah. I was super convicted by that. That's all I have to say about that.
Always.
I was too.
I really was.
Can I real quick? I know that
Ryan,
took a little
you can
bit
do
of time.
whatever you want.
I would just want to. Can I just share? Because we haven't talked about Hebrews yet.
We haven't.
Because if you don't know this, Sally, we've been off for about 6 to 8 weeks.
I did know that.
Okay.
I've missed you guys.
Well, I don't even know how long we've been in Hebrews, but I wanted to just first get y'all's thoughts on your, I don't know, just share your, I wouldn't say favorite, but something that the Lord has taught you through Hebrews. But I'll give you a little bit of time to think, because I want to just share behind the scenes of like what goes through my mind in teaching Hebrews. And what I will say is, this is one of the hardest books I've ever taught in my life.
Wow. And you just taught Revelation.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And that's
what
what
people would probably think is harder.
I was so surprised. Like, honestly, I was like, going into Hebrews, like, well, I mean, we did a Revelation.
Yeah.
Not that I'll be fine. That's not what I'm saying. But I was like,
I want to
we'll
hear.
Okay.
I want to hear that. What do you feel like is harder or the most difficult?
Because it is a lot of Old Testament history, but it's not like common Old Testament history. It's not like Noah's Ark and
it's like hidden gems.
Yes.
That you read through.
Melchizedek.
Yeah, you read through Psalms or whatever, and you don't realize this is about to get quoted in Hebrews.
Bro, the amount of
Psalms.
Yes, passages in Psalm in Hebrews is it's every chapter.
And then it blows your mind because it's like, holy cow, this was a prophecy.
Yes. It was.
But you read through that psalm as if you were that present day, and you're like, you don't realize this is a prophecy. You know,
right.
like,
I think it's David. I'm assuming
it's
it's David. In Psalm 110, he literally talks about Jesus being in the order of Melchizedek. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you read that, and if you don't have a clue what that is, you go right past it. But if you really know who Melchizedek is and what he's saying, he's calling Christ eternal. This is an Old Testament person writing Psalm who's proclaiming Christ as eternal, the Messiah that is to come, that people will see walking on. You know what I'm saying? So it's so ahead of his time, and he hadn't really probably knew what he was saying, and that's what's amazing to me. But right, so it's those hidden things. Like, he spends so much time on high priests, and getting into my head, I literally told Shelly and also Dusty, I'm like, man, I feel like we're gonna get to a point in this book where we keep repeating the same things. And Kathy Widenhouse was like, there's a purpose in that. It's repetitive because it's such a big deal. And because in this New Age church, I call it that. I don't want to say it in a bad way, but like church now.
Modern church. Not New Age.
Well, not New Age.
Church.
Not New Age.
Scratch that.
Modern Big C church.
Oh boy. And season 10 starts off. No, modern.
What denomination are you guys?
Saying like, we don't know the importance of the high priest.
Yeah.
Because we just weren't living in there. So it's hard to help people unlock why it's so important, or to go back to Melchizedek, or to teach why it's such a big deal of why the writer was so emphatic about how Jesus is greater than Moses. We already know that. But so to teach that, it's like, well, duh. But to them, this is crazy information.
Yes.
And so that's what's hard. It feels hard to communicate the importance of why he's pointing these things out.
Yes. So a couple of thoughts I've had on those things specifically. Number one, it makes me wonder. I know that we have a few people in our church who used to, I mean, I don't even know how you say this, practice Judaism. I mean, like we're Jewish. I wonder when they're hearing this, because I know it's also like a newer thing. So when you're reading through like, because that, I think of that as being so like biblical times, like they're just having to explain, no, Jesus is your high priest. Like you don't need the high priest anymore. But that was so relevant to them even recently. So I'm wondering, like, if 2 years ago you didn't believe in Jesus as your high priest, this must still, like, even though they believe now, does this make sense? Like,
absolutely, they're in the same place.
Yeah, you
they're
get
in the same
place
as these.
It just feels more relevant. I've just never been around people who are Jewish, and so it's just like this must be like so crazy to read.
I think regardless if you grew up in Judaism or anything, like anything religious.
Yes.
And that's, we're going to hit on some of that stuff today too. Like anything religious will give you the illusion that you think you know, but you don't really know.
Yes.
And this is why the book of Hebrews, even though the context of Hebrews is for Hebrews, like Jewish people, it's to break the present day religion, like religious system. You could have grown up in any denomination, and subconsciously you're not realizing that like you are doing like a Jewish style like type of religious things.
Yes.
And you call it Protestant, you know, and the Lord's like, no, you're still believing in a system.
And then I just wonder, it must feel so good to read things like Jesus being the ultimate rest, and probably like having the whole, like the Holy Spirit inside of you being like, yes, like, don't you feel so at rest with Jesus and not all the rituals with whatever religion you were a part of? I think, you know, we've had Shay on the podcast, and she talked about, you know, Mormonism. Was it Mormonism?
Yeah.
Mormonism, and just riddled with rules and laws, and these are the things that make you righteous. You know, and she has this tattoo of grace on her arm, because to understand grace, I mean, that is ultimate. That is rest in Jesus.
Yes.
And so I just wonder if they're reading this like, yes, Jesus, like knowing who this would have been written to, like, gosh, don't you want to experience the rest of Jesus? And so I wonder that. My second question, I leaned over after this past Sunday's message, I leaned over and I just asked Brandon, like, with this, the context of the New Testament, how is Catholicism a thing? Like, how did it even come to be? If it's this explicit that you don't need anyone else to get to God.
It's what Alex just said.
But it's,
because you feel like, well, I don't know this for them, but in my mind, you feel like the gospel is so simple that it's not enough.
Wow.
Like, wait. The dude died and it covers me? No, I got to still do this. This is
Wow.
But that's what's also incredible about, I don't have too much information on like the history of like Catholicism.
Yeah.
However, in many ways, like Catholicism and a lot of even denominations, I'm willing to say, they have pure roots.
Right.
They have like great motives, you know? I would even say like Holy Spirit led motives. It's when you stay stuck.
It's literally the Pharisees, because we've talked about that before. They get such a bad rap. I mean, even from Jesus, like, and rightfully so, because of where they ended up with such hard hearts. But the original intent was to protect the truth. It was to protect everybody to know this is Yahweh God. This is who he is.
But that's the point, is when you get so stuck in religion that you leave no room to grow. You put God in a box. And that's what he's saying to them. Like, they keep going back to that religion, and that's what he's saying. The gospel is enough. That's why I'm trying to tell you that Jesus is superior than all of those things.
Yes.
He is all you need. He's enough. And here, so 1 through 5, like I was saying, it seems like we know all this stuff because we focus on the New Testament a lot. But then he ends chapter 5, as we know, with that strict conviction of it's time to stop being a child and start growing. No more milk, no food. Now, here's how chapter 6 starts that we'll talk about this week. Therefore, let us leave the elementary doctrine of Christ and go on to maturity. So now he's switching from that's the foundation.
Yeah.
Now, and this is kind of what you're saying with Catholicism. They have a foundation, but they stop there. They don't put any boards up to close in. They don't build.
Wow.
It's just the foundation. So now he's like, you have the foundation. I just taught you in the first 5 chapters. Now, 6 through whatever, we're going to start building on your faith. So this coming Sunday, he gives us 3 main things of how we grow in maturity. So that's the building blocks of Hebrews.
Yeah,
So
that's so good. That's good context. Yeah. I want to jump back because another thing that I loved about this, that we did the Advent booklet that leaned heavily on Hebrews, which I liked. And, Pastor Dusty provided a lot of the content for that, all the content for that. And one of the things he had sent over, so we put this was on Saturday, December 9th. And this was just like, I love that he did on Saturdays, like just reflections of what we had learned throughout the week. And I love these types of writings that are like juxtapositions. So like,
I got to Google that.
Well, let me read this to you and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So this is he attributes it to this the Puritan preacher Thomas Watson puts it movingly in a book called A Body of Divinity. And here's what it says. He was poor that he might make us rich. He was born of a virgin that we might be born of God. He took our flesh that he might give us he took our flesh that he might give us his spirit. He lay in the manger that we may lay in paradise. He came down from heaven that he might bring us to heaven. The Ancient of Days this is where I'm like shooketh. The Ancient of Days should be born. He's always been, but he's going to be born. Ooh. Like
Dusty came up with that?
No, oh my God, you were Googling while I read who this was. This is a Puritan preacher, Thomas Watson.
Thomas came up with that?
Thomas.
The Ancient of Days should be born.
Listen, just listen, Ryan.
I read this, by the way.
That made me laugh. That he who thunders in the heavens should cry in the cradle. I can't. Okay.
That's fire.
That he who rules the stars should nurse, that a virgin should conceive, that Christ should be made of a woman, and of that woman which he himself made. That the branch should bear the vine, that the mother should be younger than the child she bare, and the child in the womb bigger than the mother. That the human nature should not be God, yet one with God. Let's all just take a moment. Like,
it humbles you when you realize how much smarter people are than you. Well, that was
juxtaposition. Good. So,
but
now I get it.
Ancient, what was it? The Ancient of Days should be born. Like, what?
I will say, like, yes, people are smarter, but like, it is the Lord's gifting of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just like that person thinks, I didn't really, like that didn't take that much brain power. It's like the Lord gave you that gift.
Yeah.
That ain't come from you, bro.
Gosh, man.
But again, that whole Ancient of Days should be born. I know I'm going back to this, but that's why it's so hard for them to understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, like, it doesn't make sense.
Well,
if we think about it, it doesn't make sense.
I can't remember. I guess maybe it was early on in Hebrews 2. I did have a moment where I was like, I had more compassion than I'd ever had because, of course, we have all the information. So it's like you look and you're like, how could they have missed it? How, when he's getting frustrated, like I keep having to say the same thing over. That would have been crazy to have to wrap your mind around. And we think about how skeptical we are now, where if somebody popped up right now and was like, I'm the Messiah, we'd be like,
you
bye.
Pray. Yeah. Well,
that happens.
Now, of course, they did have prophecies and all sorts of stuff that you wish they could have just grasped onto. But we should have a healthy level of like skepticism and test certain things.
For sure.
If somebody's saying, I'm God, you're going to have a little bit of like, wait a second. But it's easy for us to look back and judge and be like, why did they miss him? But gosh, that would be so hard.
I touched on this too, but a lot of the pastors were talking about this at that conference we went to, speaking more on prophecy. And it's the affirmation. Like, if you truly feel like the Holy Spirit's leading you to say something or do something, and then going back to like, if someone truly says he's a Messiah, well, you should have affirmation of that to know that it was truly from the Holy Spirit. Someone else that is led by the Holy Spirit should affirm that, yes,
wow,
I think those same, like speaking on prophecy, Like you could stand up and say, I'm prophesying right now and say something off the cuff that no one else can affirm. That's not prophecy. You know what I mean? That's, and I don't want to say like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like people need to affirm if you truly say something is said by the Holy Spirit. Yes, that is correct, right, biblical, and theologically correct.
That's good, yeah.
Let me say this and then I'm done with Hebrews.
Say it,
And let's let Alex have the floor here. But I want to point this out too, and it just reminded me what you said. So that the 11 through 14, where he did kind of give conviction, this is specifically for believers in Christ.
Yeah.
And I say that to say he was not saying that about someone who doesn't know Christ because they need a different conviction from the Lord than a believer does.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
wow, that's good.
I said it this way, again, talking to Carla. I was like, the way God hit me so hard with this, it's talking second service when I was on Bottom Road, and it was like, Lord, I got to get on my knees because he basically called me out for me saying I'm in a good enough place. And he convicted me. He says, you're good enough. You're robbing yourself of what I really want you to be in perfection in quotes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Complete, I should say, in the word. And so a lot of times as Christians, we get stuck in, well, I know my Bible verses. I know this, so I'm good enough. And he's like, no, you don't understand. There's more to that. Now, he would never come that hard at someone who doesn't know Christ. These are those who claim to know Christ, who need to be called out of their complacency, not out of their sin necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I love just speaking on the compassion of God. He deals with people differently depending on where they are spiritually.
Yeah.
And so if you were there on Sunday and you weren't a follower of Christ, that stern warning wasn't necessarily for you. Now you can use that and grow in that and allow it to spark your what's the word? Like your desire to know more.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, he wasn't calling you a child. He was calling those who are stuck in a child-like form as a believer in Christ.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that.
That's good. That's good. I feel like that'll give people.
I think in many ways, if we were to do like a what do they call that when you do like a study on your people? Oh gosh,
like you talking about like a basically like a poll to see where they're at.
Yeah. But there's like another word for it. But if you'd be like, how long have you been a born again Christian, or how long have you been in church? You know, and a lot of times you will be shocked and be like, oh, it's like my whole life, and then that's where this hits.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you've been in church for 20 years, you've been in church for 40 years. You have to not guilt yourself in a sinful way, but you have to ask, why did I stay
where I'm at?
Yeah, like who have I discipled? You know,
and he's not questioning your salvation.
Nope.
He's questioning your immaturity in your faith.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. He's talking to believe. So he's not saying you're not a Christian because of this. He's saying you are a Christian.
Yeah.
So grow.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't know why I feel the need to share this story, because on the flip side of that, the person who's been in church for a long time, but what you're talking about, where sometimes we hold people to an expectation or a standard that it's not meant for them. Like that. I have this story from high school. I brought a friend to, like, our church had, softball league or whatever. So we went to one of the softball games one night. And
you were an all-star softball player.
I sure was.
Did you want us to say that?
I did. I'm really asking. We're going to start a church softball league. I can't wait. But I brought her, and maybe, it was summertime. Maybe she wasn't wearing the most amount of clothes, or it was fine. I never thought she's my friend, but she was not a believer. She was not in church. And I remember one of the youth leaders leaning down to me, and I was in high school. It was like early high school though, like maybe just driving. And so she leaned down and she was like, this is a church softball game. Like, she should know better than to wear that. And I remember it like flew all over me, and I couldn't figure out why, but I processed it, like I just processed it later that, like, why would she have known that? Like, she's not a believer. And why are you being so, why are you being so judgy? Why are you like holding her to a standard that she doesn't know Jesus? She doesn't know shouldn't quote unquote wear this or whatever, that she doesn't have a relationship with him. And that always stuck with me, that first of all, I was just like, God keep me from being that person. Like, oh, they should know better. It's like, why should they know better? Have you told them? Have you told them about Jesus? Like, I don't know.
That's a great point and a lesson on judging. We think judging might be different, but judging is holding someone to a standard that you think is appropriate when they might not have any background to know what is right and wrong
Right.
according to Scripture.
Which is the ultimate right and wrong. Like, and if they don't know the word,
You're being a Pharisee.
yeah, you're just holding them to a standard they don't know yet. So anyway, that just you saying that sometimes we hold people to standards that we read in Scripture. Well, they should know that. Well, why should they know that? You know,
right?
They probably don't know that. So anyway, I do love that you pointed that out.
That's good.
But yeah, we're in Hebrews for the long haul.
Yeah, we got a while. I don't want y'all to be honest.
I was trying to look back. I mean, I was trying to look back at when we did start, but this is
it was after Revelation.
I mean, but it's the word. Like,
Word.
I love that we're going through books.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do Acts next.
No way.
Yeah, we're doing it in a Bible study on Friday and going like line for line. And man, like, of course I've read Acts, but it's like to go deep into Acts, and that's really I love how Dusty said it's a transition book. So there's a lot of things in Acts that we don't see happening now, and it's because those are specific to that time to transition into the church.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think to build the church. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
We'll
Alex,
is it my turn?
Can we talk about zeal for the Lord or zeal of the Lord? Either or.
I'll
in
preface
the Lord.
With
as the Lord.
Near the
how
Lord.
this topic like birthed in my mind and in my spirit. Please. But I will say, like, if you guys have been attending New River for a little bit, I think this would be technically our third year wanting to like host the gathering. So
that's crazy.
No,
we are going into our third year.
Yeah, and the gathering I think has been very spiritually, how would you say, like a marker for our church in many ways. But what the gathering is, just for context, we have our nights of worship that would typically happen on a Sunday night, or for Easter we do them on a Thursday night. And then about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, something like that, I really felt the Lord leading us in a place where He wanted to see all generations worship the Lord in the auditorium. So in many ways, we like our childcare stuff, like that resource, and it's a great resource in many ways. And we love it because it's not like they're just going into like a childcare and like just being watched. In many ways, our childcare stuff, they're teaching about Jesus as well. So there's a great benefit to teach at their level. However, the gathering was spiritually pointed specifically to see young and old worship together, including 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. To create an environment where stop calling a distraction. For 1 hour, let's have uninterrupted worship. And so if the Lord is if He is like influencing you to sit down and just write on a journal for that hour, do it. If you feel inclined to pray, do it. If you feel to be on your knees or stand up, if you feel like singing along, like want to create a worshipful space and what it means to biblically truly worship. And so that can look in a lot of different ways, but it was honestly to see the family worship together, and to create spaces where children can grow up and be like, I know that the presence of God because I grew up in it, and that comes from a place even in my heart where I cherish those times as well. Where like, even though I was playing with Hot Wheels under a pew, I can smell, I can sense, I can see what the presence of the Lord is like, and so what His manifest presence is like.
Right.
So the gathering is that I'm trying to probably do it in the month of April. The gathering, and we'll probably at least at minimum have 2. Possibly and we'll debate we'll talk to see if it's on a Thursday night or another week night or something, but all that journey to say that for this year I was like, Lord, what are you wanting to do? And the word zeal just kept coming up, zeal, and I remember talking to Sally, like I was like, I want like a theme. And like, and it's not that as if the gathering, that name is not enough. No, like I felt like, this is going to sound funny, but can we baptize it with a certain theme? Like, what is the aim? Above and beyond, like what the vision behind the gathering is. And zeal just kept coming up. And I remember I mentioned to you, I was like, I feel like this is zeal nights. I don't know. like, and so took me on this journey, been looking into it a little bit, but all in all, this is what zeal is. And I'm pulling from like 2 articles as far as like most of the content that I'm pulling from. One is from the infamous John Piper.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, and the other, I wrote his name here, but I thought I did.
Let me guess. Miguel.
No, not
T-Pain.
Miguel.
Yeah. Kanye West.
Anyway,
No.
his name will pop
We
up
do
here in
not
a second.
promote that.
But all in all, I have Eric Raymond.
Oh,
sorry.
I was close.
It's tip of the tongue.
And I forget the website that was on, but regardless, I'm pulling from 2 articles, and these 2 articles are pulling from the Bible.
Yeah.
So, like,
It all goes back. Yeah.
We'll put them in the show notes.
Straight. Yeah. But I'm going to reiterate like how we started the podcast. Like Ryan, he mentioned Webster's definition for zeal. What I wrote down is zeal is dedication or enthusiasm for something. If you have zeal, you're willing, energized, and motivated. Zeal is often used in a religious sense, meaning devotion to God or another religious cause, like being a missionary. And so this is very important because it's not exclusive to Christianity.
Yeah.
It's like saying you're passionate for something or you're zealous for something. Like you can have zeal and it not necessarily be for the Lord.
Yeah.
Is what we really want to hit on. So we want to teach something so biblical, meaning like when we teach about zeal, don't misunderstand that you can be zealous and still not be saved.
Yes.
Like, you know,
Yes.
so now I'm going to read a little bit from this guy's article first from Eric Raymond. It says, this is him quoting. So here we go. I was thinking today about the connection of zeal to hope. Hope is the ballast in the soul of the Christian that keeps him from being tossed about by the winds of uncertainty. It is also the basis for our zeal. When we say that we are hopeful, we are saying that our faith is in God and all that he promises. Zeal, then, is the response to resting in God's promise. You might say that resting produces a flurry or zeal of activity. When our zeal is low, we can be sure that we are not truly hoping in God.
Wow.
Like zeal is honestly the fruit. It's just you believe in something and there's an action, there's a response.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. My spirits do it. It's like yes, like okay, I can see that.
If you don't have hope, you're lost in wandering and wondering.
Yeah, and so the biggest question I think for like 2024, for many of us, is like, where has your zeal gone?
Yeah.
Now we finished as a church corporately the book of Revelation. Revelation talks briefly about this concept of first love. The Lord is continuing to speak through his word. Where is your first love? Can you return to me, please? Where's your affection? Where's your emotion? Where's your love towards Jesus? You've hit all the religious points, like you do the work, you know, but where is your love for me?
Yeah.
So I love how Eric did that. And then for the rest of this podcast, we'll probably just stick to John Piper's article.
Yeah.
But this one's just called Zeal for God. You can look it up on Desiring God. But I loved this one. Like blew my mind in many ways.
Yeah.
And I had to like copy and paste like
the whole thing. Might as well
felt like it. Yeah. Like I got a page and a half versus like his full thing's like 8 pages.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. So I would super encourage you guys to like, if you guys want to see that article, it's amazing.
Is it deadly or indispensable? Zeal for God, deadly.
Yeah, that's it.
That was
perfect.
That's a great article.
So here it goes. John Piper. It says, look at Romans 10, 1-2. It says, brothers, my heart's I feel like a cough coming.
Oh, get him.
My heart's desire and prayer to God for them is that they may be saved. Which, they may be saved.
Which implies they're not.
Yes, for I bear them witness that they have a zeal for God, is the rest of the verse. I'm so sorry if I'm about to cough.
It's okay. Get it out.
We will distract the crowd. Hey, Sally.
Why?
You know what, though?
Oh.
Did you ask me a question? I couldn't hear you over
Alex
is coughing.
No. I was trying to distract the listeners.
Oh, well, no, here's what I'll say. And maybe it's just like a confession time. I feel like this. Oh, here she comes. Here come the tears.
We made it.
I have tears just because of my
season
cough.
10, 48 minutes. That's a record.
Chill out. I feel like this is hitting me at the perfect time. I even sat like kind of in my quiet time this morning having the same kind of questions, like for myself, like why am I so easily tossed about? Why why does something small or something that feels uncomfortable or painful to me send me spiraling so far? And then I feel so far from the times where I feel most affectionate and most energetic and most enthusiastic for the things of the Lord. It really does drive me. I wish, or I guess my hope or my prayer would be that when I experience things that hurt or things that are hard, that it really would drive not things that I'm just desperate for. Like, I think if maybe I experienced a loss or something like that, maybe that would drive me into the arms of Jesus. Like something that's like, okay, I can't do this on my own. But to me, it's more of the things that are either frustrating or disappointing or maybe even like mildly hurtful. They derail me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that way. And that was kind of like, maybe that's just like a little confession. I don't want to be that way, you know?
Yeah.
And so I want, like, I'm just saying, I don't care who else is listening. I am listening. Like,
Yeah.
I want this. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And I love that. No, I
sorry.
love that because John Piper hits on the characteristics of like being a zealous person and
Yes.
how there are certain things that it's beautiful to be in your feelings and your emotions like with the Lord.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't like completely toss you out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
Yep.
So John Piper says the most stunning thing about this passage is that you can have a zeal for God and not be saved. That's the most amazing thing. He says, my heart, on quoting the scriptures, my heart's desire and prayer to God for them. He's talking about his Jewish kinsmen, where where he was once upon a time, referring to Paul, the writer of Romans, is that they may be saved. For I bear them witness to have a zeal for God. Now, zeal does not save us. So you can have a zeal for God and not be saved. Pastors can have a zeal for God. This is where like John is going into some.
I can't wait to see where he's going.
He's going to some wild waters in some ways where he's like, pastors can have a zeal for God and not be saved. Churchgoers can have a zeal for God and not be saved. There is a kind of zeal that is not saving, and it's not connected with those who are saved. You can have a zeal for justice and not be saved, and he keeps going. Now,
wow.
Yeah, and he's saying these bold statements, but he's about to like involve scripture.
Yeah.
So just kind of hold on for a second. God is not into moderate. He's not into middle of the road devotion to Jesus. Zeal is important. Now here's the problem with inferring that from what Paul says. The New Testament not only says that you can have a zeal and not be saved, but it also says that you cannot be saved without a zeal for God.
Yeah.
Let me give you a few texts so that you can see what you think. So this is the beauty of like John Piper in many ways, where he's like, and honestly, like it's how we should all operate. Everything has to go
to scripture,
the scriptures, like everything, including prophecy, like you just hit about. Like it has to be. So now he explains to us what it is in Romans 10:3. They have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. For being ignorant of the righteousness of God and seeking to establish their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. This is where, when you're speaking about the religious system, especially in Judaism with Jewish people, there's an effort where you think you're doing the work out of just your straight knowledge of what you've always known, and you think you're good. And Paul is like, you're zealous for those things. You're not zealous for Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So because you're stuck in your knowledge and what you think is righteousness, but you're not actually in the true righteousness, which is Jesus, that's why you're not in a true form of zeal, like zeal for the Lord.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to hit, because you're like, this is where it means that pastors perhaps can have zeal and not be saved, is because I don't know if you've ever encountered this, Ryan, where you meet a person in ministry and you're like, who told you to be a pastor? Or like, who told you that you're a pastor?
Yeah.
Like, why did you even get into ministry? Like, the question also is like, man, are you even saved? Because you're just, you treat it like a job.
Yeah.
At what point?
Or abuse the power.
Yeah, you abuse the power. You fell into a system where you're like, oh, I could totally do that. From a business standpoint, like I can quote unquote manage people and give them a couple scriptures here and there. And it's like, are you, Do you know that this is a calling? Do you know that the Lord anoints you to be set apart for this ministry? You know, that he does the work, but he's doing it through you,
Mhm.
you know?
You're speaking to some people here, and I hope this is not for everybody, but if you find yourself measuring knowledge more than relationship, this is what we're talking about. Where you have now put knowledge of the word above relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And knowledge of the word, of course, is a good thing.
Yep.
But if you miss the righteousness of who Jesus is, you have zeal for rules, not zeal for faith in God.
So I don't. He goes there. I don't know if you're going there in this article. The knowledge of
I said something John Piper said.
You did. You're so smart. You know what? Let's not use this article. Ryan, you do the rest.
In Revelation 3:16.
That's funny. Oh, you know, you really did. You touched on it. We're going to go there because I read that this morning and it kind of wrecked me. The part about knowledge of righteousness.
Yes.
Anyway. But we won't get there yet.
That just relating this back to what we were saying. That's what he's talking about with the spirit in your heart and your mind. They have to have a connection.
Yes.
Your mind has the knowledge. The spirit has the wisdom.
Yeah.
They have to connect in order to glorify Christ.
Yes.
Yes.
I had to put that together in my head.
So we're gonna break it down to 3 parts. The way that John did. He says, John Piper, by the way. Not biblical, John.
Yeah.
There are 3 parts of the explanation of their ignorance. So the first one is not knowing. That's their ignorance. Then here's what they don't know: the righteousness of God. And the 2 ways that they're responding to it that indicate their ignorance is that they're not submitting to it.
That's the big word.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Welcome to the life of a Christian. Submission.
Yeah, submission. Do you see that at the end of Romans 10:3, they don't subject themselves to that righteousness that they don't know? They're in rebellion against it. They don't submit to it. The other piece is that they're trying to, therefore, to establish their own. This actually goes hand in hand with Hebrews as well, because it's the same audience. You know, you're not submitting to Jesus, the high priest. You're not in submission that he is the one. Like he is the one.
Yeah.
They're trying to earn their own righteousness.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand and don't have knowledge of God's righteousness, you devote your life to getting righteousness.
Yeah.
And that's not rest. Like, because you're striving to gain something that the Lord has already. He how do you call it? Like he earned it.
Yeah.
Like he owns it. He earned it. Like he's the one that paid the price.
Yeah.
And there is there's a disconnect between, I know Jesus died for me, but do you believe that like it's once and for all and it's a free gift, freely given?
The gospel is enough.
Yeah, like
there's nothing.
And that's what's really hard. And so many times in our walk, in our lifetime with the Lord, it's like, Jesus, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Just rest now.
Yeah.
Just rest, and it's hard to rest.
I love that.
So we're going to get into it, to the second half of this subject, which is we need zeal to be saved. In Revelation 3:16, Jesus said to the church in Laodicea, because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. God is not into moderate. He's not into middle of the road devotion to Jesus. Zeal is important. Caring deeply about God, not moderately caring about God, is important. Romans 12:11, do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord instead of the word. And so instead of the word fervent, some translations say that you should be aglow. It means that you should boil. This is where it gets real passionate, real quick. We get the word fervent from fervens in Latin, which means boil. So if you're a fervent person, your spirit is alive, it's quickened, it's boiling for something, and God ought to be the big boil in your life. And in 1 Corinthians 16:22, the last thing Paul says to the church in Corinth is that if anyone has no love for the Lord, let him be accursed. This is strong language that the Bible goes to. It doesn't say if anyone does not believe the Lord, let him be cursed. Though that would be true. It doesn't say if anyone has not received the Lord, let him be cursed. Though that would be true. It doesn't say if anyone has not made a decision for the Lord, though that would be true. You have to decide for Jesus you have to decide for Jesus. It says, anyone who doesn't love him be damned.
Mm.
You know, those who are strong, those are strong words to talk about love. I get the impression zeal might matter.
Yeah.
Is what John Piper says.
Oh my gosh.
And then lastly, is this is the last thing that I wanted to bring to the table is Jesus seemed to always be reaching for language that provoked zeal for him and his Father. For example, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. That's out of Luke 14:33. Or, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you, falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. This is Matthew 5. I love that scripture in many ways because I remember like even talking to our friend Charlie where I'm almost like, dude, you're crazy. Because he would smile. Like I remember one time he was in a room and this dude stood up and yelled in front of the entire auditorium against the preacher. And Charlie smiled and he's like, the Lord is in this place. And this is the paradox where in many ways we're like, this is crazy. Get that guy out of here. And yeah, you should. Yeah. However, in the spirit, you know there's something good happening here because the enemy does not like it.
He's distracted. That verse right there goes back to that first quote you said from the other one, that hope produces zeal. That's what he's saying. Like your reward's in heaven. Yeah. That's hope. Yeah. So what does that do? It produces rejoice and be glad. That's that zeal.
Yes.
Going back to eternal perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
Bro, Charlie's a different dude.
He is.
Everybody in there probably freaking out. And he's like, nah, this is exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah.
He's somebody that like exemplifies zeal a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Zeal and wisdom and calmness that I see.
Not in his brain.
I know. That's the ironic thing.
That's the meekness, I think, of the Holy Spirit. Where it's like in his mind, it's probably a wild horse.
And I believe that he thinks it is. But what I see is someone who reveres the Lord and he comes across as calm and in control.
Yeah, we're definitely, not to sidetrack, we're definitely going to have to bring him back for this season because things that has happened, like he was our last episode, right?
Yes.
The things that have occurred in this small span of time is crazy.
Yeah.
Like the utmost crazy.
Wow.
And he's really scared right now. He's like, what's happening with me?
Yeah.
In a good way.
In a great Holy Spirit way.
Wow.
It's very God-fearing.
Uneasy. Yeah.
Uneasy, man.
Wow.
It's almost like he is 44, 45. It's almost like the Lord added 20, 30 years to his life. And you know, when you get old, there's a sense of like, I don't care. Like you just say what you think. And that's where he's at.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care about anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm on mission.
Yeah, I know this is right. This is what I got to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's not a pride. It's a broken pride that is non-existent anymore. It's like there's not an ounce of me anymore. This is all for God's glory. You know? So
wow.
No, it's been wonderful. So I said wonderful in the next word I'm about to say. So wonderfully weird. The kind of people the world desperately need. Hold up, sorry. So it ends with saying, where your reward is great in heaven, so you have people beating up on you, slandering, lying about you. Be happy. I mean, that's weird, wonderfully weird. The kind of people the world desperately needs. Man, he quotes something from a local church in Cincinnati. Let's just go to the scriptures. Or Matthew 5. Matthew 5:29 says that it's better to gouge out your eye or go to heaven than to keep your eye for lust and go to hell. It not only says in Romans you can have a zeal for God and be lost, it also says that you can't be saved. You can't be a follower of Jesus and be an indifferent person toward him. You've got to have zeal. It really matters. It's not optional. It's not an elective in the curriculum.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. So the part of that saving zeal, because he kind of goes on to talk about this, and I think this is important for us to know. So if there is a zeal that is saving, there's a zeal that is not saving. And so this is kind of how he breaks it down. And it goes back to that Romans 10:1-2. My heart's desire and prayer in prayer to God is for them that they may be saved, meaning they're not saved. For I bear them witness that they have zeal for God. And you finish the verse. They have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. It's not in accordance with the knowledge. And so there's a zeal that saves, and then there's a zeal that is a part of that is not a saving zeal, and there's a zeal that is part of being saved.
Yes.
And so it says that one is according to knowledge, and the other is not according to knowledge. And so that's kind of where we get back to that, even the Catholicism conversation, that there is a zeal that, regardless of what the origins were, what the heart was behind everything, it's still not according to the knowledge of what, and this is why I'm reading in Hebrews and like, how does this exist? It's not according to the knowledge that we already have, that it's already finished in Jesus. And so I want to read a few of these examples that he gives, but
I have one.
Go.
That I don't know if you're going to read this one, but I just found it scrolling. Now, he uses an example of sexual desire.
Yeah.
Okay, so just put anything that you personally struggle with. So don't get caught up in the sexual desire, but he talks about that whole thing.
Yeah.
This is almost at the end of the whole article, but he says, you must out-zeal the zeal of your sexual desires or your sin that you struggle with. He says, your sin that you struggle with has zeal. You wouldn't want to do it if it didn't.
Wow.
So this is that good zeal, bad zeal. Then he says that desire will take you captive unless you counter them with another zeal that accords with the knowledge of the great gift of righteousness from a great, generous God who is infinitely worthy of your allegiance, down to even your bed sheets.
Oh my gosh.
Then he says, that's my second application. There is a zeal for God that accords with knowledge according to 1 Thessalonians 4. And that's more talking about sexual morality. He says that will manage your lust wholly.
Yeah.
Wow.
That, the way he said, now again, talking about just sexual morality, he says, God is worthy of your allegiance, even down to your bed sheets.
Yeah.
Like, think about that.
1000%. Yeah.
Or in any sin that you struggle with, even down to that bottle or down to that, put your sin in there. I mean, that conversation.
It would be interesting to know the conversations that people have with God. So like because I've felt this way this week of like, I want to be more zealous. I want to be more steadfast. But to me, it sounds like zeal is a product of hope. And then steadfastness is a product of zeal. Like, like it's kind of like builds on it. Yeah. So I want to be steadfast. I don't want to be tossed about. I want to have zeal. So my hope needs to be in the right place. But as I was kind of thinking and praying through all these things, I already know the things that the Lord is touching in my heart. They have to go.
Wow.
I'm zealous for the wrong things.
Yeah.
I'm clinging to some of the wrong things that don't produce steadfastness.
Yeah,
righteousness.
The strong language that I low-key liked was the out zeal. Like, it means you're zealous for something. Like, what are the things that you're actually zealous for that are not zealous for Jesus? And you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah, and that's his point: is allow the zeal for the Lord to out zeal your desire for sin.
You mentioned examples on Sunday about you could be zealous with your favorite TV shows. You could be zealous with your favorite artists. You could know their lyrics word for word, and then you're like, can you mention the 8th book of the Bible?
Yeah.
That is putting to light the things that need to be made aware.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody last week, and this has been an ongoing process even with another individual where it's, you can't unsee the things that the Lord has now opened your eyes from. You have been made aware of something that now you can't return. You can't unsee it. You're like, dang it. I used to think I was fine. I used to do, the church service, however, and I never saw those things. I just thought we were fine. We were more than fine. If anything, it was unto the Lord. And then the Lord was like, no, let me reveal some things to you. And when those blinders get taken off, you're like, dang, I can't unsee that anymore. And there is such a like a pure passion where you're like, I want to do things right for the Lord.
Yeah.
Truly holy things.
Yeah.
What is that actually holy? Is that part, is that segment in the church service, is that actually for the Lord? Or is that something that we made up because, I don't know.
Yeah.
It creates numbers. It's whatever.
Sometimes we look at that kind of thing negatively too, but that is such a blessing from the Lord that he is revealing something to you that you can correct with power from the Spirit so that you draw closer to Him and know Him more.
Yes.
Like those are those blessings that we don't talk about.
Well, this is kind of maybe this kind of fits in with that, but with that verse and the end of it saying, I got to go back to
Which
it.
one are you talking about?
Romans 10, was it 1 through 2? 1 and 2.
That's a good one, I'm sure.
My gosh. Hold on, I'm trying to find it because I want to get it right. Oh my gosh, I think it was in the saving part.
Is it this article?
It is this
article.
It's
like 8 pages long.
I know it is.
Bro,
I'm having trouble finding it. Oh, the saving zeal.
Yeah.
So to finish the verse, they have zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. So what he goes on to say is that knowledge is then very important. Knowledge of the righteousness of God is really how isn't that what it is? Hold on. Let me just pull it up. Romans 10. Good night.
Well, they have zeal, but not according to knowledge, for being ignorant of the righteousness of God and seeking to establish their own righteousness.
There it is.
They did not submit to God's righteousness.
So essentially making your own religion, kind of, you're just making your own rules, everything like that. So what he's saying is the knowledge is a key part to your zeal, your appropriate and accurate zeal for God.
Yes, it's the enlightenment of truth.
Yes.
Now you have to act on the knowledge through wisdom of the Holy Spirit.
So he goes on to kind of apply it to Martin Luther. So he basically says that, Luther wasn't alive yet for Paul to be writing this on behalf of like Martin Luther.
Yeah.
But had Paul been alive when Martin Luther was alive, his prayer would have probably been something like, my prayer to God is that Martin Luther, who is in rebellion against the righteousness of God as a very devout Catholic, would be saved. Like that could have been a prayer from Paul because he was so into a devout Catholic. That he would be saved. And so then he said, and then here's what Luther wrote. Here's what Luther wrote on a single word in Romans 1:17. In it, the righteousness of God is revealed, had stood in my way. I hated the word righteousness of God, which I had been taught to understand philosophically regarding the formal or active righteousness, as they called it, with which God is righteous and punishes unrighteous sinners. Wow. Nevertheless, I beat upon Romans at the place, Romans 1:17. I beat on that place most ardently, desiring to know what St. Paul wanted. At last, by the mercy of God, meditating day and night, I gave heed to the context of the words. There I began to understand that the righteousness of God is that by which the righteous live by the gift of God, namely by faith. He who through faith is righteous shall live. He who through faith is righteous shall live. Here I felt I was altogether born again and had entered paradise itself through open gates. So what he's saying is like beating on that passage. Why does it matter that the righteousness of God matters? Like, why does that produce zeal, the right kind of zeal? He beat on that passage. And so the title of this little part was like, linger in the scriptures, because it will open your eyes to the truth and it will mean something to you. And that's what changed. It changed his life. He then understood that the righteousness, he always just understood it from a head place. Like, I get it. God will enact his righteousness against unrighteous sinners. But when it actually took to his heart, it changed everything for him. And so knowledge of the scriptures will produce zeal for us, not like knowledge of the right things.
Wow. Right, yes.
Going
on to that, so the end of that Romans 10, it says, for Christ is the end of the law. Yeah. So no more works to gain righteousness.
Yeah.
Christ is the end of the law, for righteousness goes to anyone who believes. That's what he's saying. Like, I had to realize I got to quit.
Yeah.
I just need to go to Christ.
Yep. And so we can build our zeal off of all sorts of things. We could be zealous for, and maybe we've all found ourselves in places like that too. And I'm not just talking about zealous for, sometimes we're zealous for sinful things.
Yep.
And so, we need the help of the Lord to
zeal
the things that we're zealous for. But even in our own, I'm sure we've all in our sanctification even been zealous for things of God or placed heavy burdens on ourselves or other people where it's like, that's not real knowledge of the scriptures, and that's not real zeal. That's not a saving zeal. I think when you say that this is a thing for our church, like what do you hope is produced this year in 2024 in terms of zeal? Like what would it practically look like for us to be a zealous church?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we want people's like motives to be in the right
Yeah.
posture.
Yeah.
Because
Mm.
in a scary way, we have like studied that you can be zealous and from one extreme not be saved, but
Yeah.
and then be zealous and almost be zealous for the wrong
And miss
Yeah.
it.
reasons.
Right. And miss it. Yeah.
The one of the most important things that I do want to share today is, and this is like a personal story of mine, where at one point I was a young leader in my teens,
Mhm.
and what I thought was zeal, what I thought was passion,
Yeah.
was actually wrapped in my pride,
Yeah.
and I hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. What I did back when I was like 15, 16, 17 was like, um, unfortunately, was like, hey, get on my level,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so often we're in our like own way, and we're like, we call it passion,
Mhm.
we call it love for Jesus, but like, where's the humility,
Yeah.
you know? And so my heart, honestly, is that we would be a zealous people, honestly, because the enemy is, he's going 100,
Mhm.
like, and he's not slowing down.
Mhm.
And for us, there has to be an urgency
Yeah.
to see God's kingdom expand. Now, Jesus does the work. However, it's those who are submitted
Mhm.
to the Lord that
Mhm.
He says, I can use you.
Yeah.
I can. Go
Bro,
ahead.
that first quote again, if you read that, it mentioned willing. A
Yeah.
zealous church is willing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, yes,
Yeah.
Christ will do work, but we have to be submissive and willing
Yes.
to follow in
Yeah. I mean, the
obedience.
Lord is looking for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. He is identifying, finding the people who have surrendered.
Yeah.
And have died to their pride. And so, my heart, eh, I think with what the Holy Spirit is doing, at least for our church here at New River, um, is he if you're tired of being stale, if you're tired of feeling stuck, like, return to the Lord to
Mm.
it sounds even weird to say energize that zeal, but it's that thing that, like, whatever comes your way, there
Yeah.
is such a fierceness against sin.
Yeah.
There is such
Yeah.
a, like, you're disgusted to sin,
Yeah.
Mm.
and not towards other people. However,
Mhm.
it's to yourself. Like, you have to be disgusted with your own sin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good.
You have to love other people.
Yeah.
Again, Jesus has always been the prime example. He loved people.
Yeah.
Um, however, like, hate the sin.
Yeah.
And in the sin in your own life, have you gotten to a zeal to where it's like, I hate my own sin. It makes me want
Yeah.
to throw up.
Yeah.
Mm.
That the thought of things going south, your stomach just churns. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
The big picture is that is the death of me.
Mhm.
Mm.
So what gives life? And so, um, also, like, learning that, worshiping Jesus is a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So seeing a zealous community come in here, even on the days where they don't feel anything,
Yeah.
the Lord intentionally hides Himself from you for you to seek Him.
Oh
Mm.
Lord.
So
Yeah.
if you feel in a season where you're like, "Where is the Lord?" I just feel like He's
Mhm.
silent. He's essentially hiding. He's playing hide and seek
Mhm.
with you, fam.
Yeah.
Go find Him.
Search.
Go
Mhm.
search.
Yeah.
He's not always going to be like, "Hey, I'm right here,"
Mhm.
even though biblically, yeah, He's always there.
Mhm.
He's always been there. But come find me.
Mhm.
Open the word, open the book of life.
Yeah.
Like, just open it, man.
Yeah.
Like, um, and connect with people who love Jesus. And
I
so
love
You
that.
I'm just
say
saying, to see a people like that, that's
you,
would be amazing.
you say like I don't know how you phrase the question, but
I don't either.
the way I understood it
Yeah.
was how do we become or continue
Mhm.
to be a zealous church? I go back to kind of what one passage I used on Sunday. It was have reverence for the Lord. You
Yes.
know, it told us that when Jesus in the garden, that God heard his prayers
Mhm.
because of obedience and reverence.
Mhm.
And if you look at what made him have reverence is because he literally said, "Not my will, but yours be
Yeah.
done." So if we have a church that is
Yeah.
surrendered to the will of God, and no matter what that is,
Yeah.
Wow.
then that will
Can
create zeal.
can I ask
Yeah.
you a question? Because I grew up with the word reverence, and the word reverence always felt like this, like this. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like, shh, like, be reverent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to
Mm.
describe that. However, how do you demonstrate reverence to the Lord?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because in my mind, I almost go to the thing, like, we all give reverence to something.
Yeah.
And so
Y'all better not jump ahead. I earlier talking about this next week.
Are you?
If for some, hold up.
I had no idea.
For some reason, you get the butterflies when you see a famous person, what do you do? Like, you're giving them reverence, but what do? You know, like, if you're at a sports game and you're giving that team reverence, but your reverence is in the form of shouting, of cheering, like, so what would you describe reverence like?
Yeah.
Because some people be like, no, you're in church, you gotta chill, be quiet.
That's good.
Yeah, that's not reverence to me.
Yeah.
That
You know,
that's respect and reverence, but they have
Yeah.
a wrong idea of, I think, what God intends for a church when He says be reverent. I think it's honor,
Yep.
honor and love, and it's fear, but it's not fear to be afraid. It's an honoring fear. Like, Lord, I submit again. Sorry, we're using the same word. It's submission to say, I will follow you because I honor you, because I trust you, and I know that anything that happens, you're in control of that. To me,
Wow.
that's reverence. It's
Yes.
complete submission. Posture is bowing at the feet of the cross,
Yeah.
saying, "Your
It's
will,
like, to
your will
me,
be
like,
done."
I've gotten to the conclusion where it's just like, give him his worth, like, give him what he's worthy of.
Yeah, yes. So
You know?
here's reverence, and you look at the life of Jesus, and He's God, as we mentioned before.
Yeah.
But where did He find His wisdom and strength?
Mm.
By bowing in prayer.
Yeah.
So He's displaying reverence by going to God, even though He is God.
Yeah.
By giving an example. So He's showing us how to do it. We
Yeah.
bow and say, God, help me understand. You know. So
Yeah.
I need you to help me know.
Yeah.
And you can ask, you know what I'm saying? So that's my idea of reverence, is honor.
Yeah. Wow.
Same as you would have reverence for a king in the old days, where you would come and you can't look at them, you know?
Yep.
You honor them.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, different with Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, but the earthly analogies are always like super helpful. You know,
That's that Bodhi Bacham. He was like, you don't make Jesus your king. You don't make him Lord. He is Lord.
Yeah.
You just submit to that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then he uses that excuse. It's like, back in the old days, you don't walk in and say, hey, you're my king now. No. He's always been your king. You just submit to that he is your king. And that's what it is.
He always comes with the fire.
He does, man.
Where he said, I don't need to defend the Bible any more than I need to defend a lion. Okay. You're right.
that's powerful.
Yeah, I think
Zealous Church.
Yep.
Have reverence, have honor, trust.
Yep.
That's what and I was thinking about this last night too. I don't know. My brain was going. He's like, you know what? God asked for one thing from us. Now that one thing is everything, but it's
just happens to be everything.
But what I'm saying is one word: faith.
Yeah.
Like, if we truly have faith, we give everything.
Yeah.
That's all He asks. Faith. Just believe in me, because if you believe in me, like you said, I'll open it up and you will see. You will see.
I think a good just a good takeaway from this conversation is to produce those things, to produce a zealous church that is full of faith, full of trust. It will always go back to the scriptures. We have to be in the Word. This is where
we ain't a church no more.
No, I mean we literally have to be in the Word, and this is why I loved your call to a commitment of that. On Sunday, like, will you be with me? Can we study this? Can we talk to God? And we confirm the things that we hear from God about who He is, His nature, His character, the things He's speaking to us by His Word.
Yeah.
He's not going to speak something to you that isn't already displayed in Scripture.
That's good.
And so
I said affirmation.
Yeah, it's the affirmation.
Yes.
Because people will be saying, God said this. And it's like, that's not His nature. That's the opposite of what we see in Scripture.
No, you made God say that by taking a verse out of context. Yeah.
So to be growing and not, this is what I'm taking away from that, Romans 10 is to be in zeal that it aligns with God. It is according to His Word.
Yep.
We got to be in it. And so I think that's just a good thing for our church. It's the beginning of 2024. It doesn't matter that it's not January 1st, right this second. You can start any day to develop a good, healthy spiritual discipline of being in the Word. And I'm talking to myself too. I still struggle with the just a good consistency and routine in the Word. Calling it, this always goes back to that, calling it freedom in Christ. It's like, I'm not under the law. It's like, gosh, but no, we need healthy spiritual disciplines. Anyway, I just think that's good for all of us to know and to just be thinking about. And we are talking about, I guess it is kind of in that vein, so reverence. But next week we are going to talk about what a healthy fear of God looks like.
Yeah.
And I keep saying this, I don't know a better word, but truly it's benefits. Like the promises for those who fear God in scripture are many. Like a lot of the verses that we cling to, actually, if you'll go back and look like the verse before that, it's actually addressing those who fear God will blah, blah, blah.
Wow,
those who fear God get to da, da, da. Like we'll cling to the second part, but we'll kind of neglect like
how to get
but
it.
it's people who fear God that are being addressed. And so I want us to be able to talk about that. So we'll do that next week. I'm excited.
Yes.
I think these are good, solid, like beginning of the year type of things. I like the beginning of the year. I don't hate resolutions. I know people are like, don't do your New Year's resolutions. I don't hate those.
You realize we're a week away from February.
I know.
That's insane.
It's so fast. But we're still in that mode. We're still in that beginning of the year type of feel. Like let's get some things in order this year, Yes. Order. That's like Brandon's word. Not just for the year. He's
can't
saying
stand
it
that
last
word.
year, but
Which is why I need to do it. Right?
He'll be cleaning out his car like order. Yeah. Like everything's just order. So I think it's good for us. Okay. Great job, Alex. Thank you for talking.
Is this going worldwide on TV?
Worldwide.
NBC,
ABC.
They'll probably
CBS.
edit us.
Not CNN.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Now we're cutting. Cut.
No,
Turn it off, Greg. Turn it off. Okay. This was great. We're back, guys.
Yes.
Season 10. All right. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Right. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Overflow Podcast of New River Church, where we seek to provide authentic, practical, biblical encouragement beyond Sunday services. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, and if you'd like to learn more about New River, please visit us online at newriver.church or join us in person on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. We'll talk to you next week, same time, same place. May God cover you with his goodness and grace, and may Jesus always be enough.